Good morning, guys. Okay, so today we're going to start by talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. Or it could be good afternoon, depending upon when you're watching. So for parallel lines, that is lines that never intersect. Algebraically, we show these. How do we know if two lines are parallel? They have the same slope. So for instance, if we have y equals 2x plus 1 and y equals 2x minus 7, you will notice they both have a slope of 2. The slope is 2 here, and the slope is 2 here. Okay, so next, let's talk about perpendicular lines. You'll notice parallel lines, they're equidistant apart. Perpendicular lines are intersecting and they make this right angle. Okay, so the definition, lines that intersect at 90-degree angles. Lines that intersect at 90-degree angles. Okay, so algebraically, how do we know if two lines are perpendicular? So make sure we see. Okay, so if they're perpendicular, they have negative, I can't spell negative evidently, negative, which is the same as opposite, reciprocal slopes. This should be capitalized. Really pay attention to what you're doing because this is the important part. The negative reciprocals, which means when you multiply the two, they would equal -1. I'll show you what that means as well. Okay, negative reciprocal slopes. So for instance, if we had y equals 2x plus 1, a perpendicular line would be -1/2 x plus 5. So if I'm looking at the slopes, my slopes are 2 and -1/2. If I multiply those together, it equals -1. So if you multiply the two slopes together and it equals -1, then they're perpendicular. Okay, so let's do a couple of examples of changing the slopes around. Okay, what are negative reciprocals? We talked about that a little bit. It is a fraction flipped and the sign or signs are switched. So 3/4 and -4/3 are negative reciprocals. 2, and like we did up here, -1/2 are negative reciprocals. -7 and 7/8, 1 and -1, 0 and undefined are negative reciprocals. Okay, so now let's work a couple of examples. Here we go. Number 1, A, B, so determine if the segments A, B, and C, D are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So I've got to find the slope for each one. So I am doing the change in Y over the change in X for each one. So I've got AB, and that's going to be 6 minus 3. Oh, hold up, Kimberly. You're jumping ahead of yourself. M equals the change in Y over the change in X, which is 6 minus 3 over 2 minus negative 2. This becomes a big plus, so this is going to be 3 over 4. CD, the slope is going to be, I'm not going to do change in Y over change in X for everything. We know how to find the slope. So I'm doing 3 minus 0 over 3 minus negative 1. That's going to give me 3 over, that's double negative, negative 4. Not negative 4 because that's a positive 4. So what do I notice? These are the same. So this is parallel. Because M is, I'm going to do shorthand, is same. You don't have to write that reason every time. I'm just explaining to you why, because this is your notes. So I would write it down because it's notes, but other than that, you don't have to do that reasoning every time. Okay, looking at number 2. Doing the same thing. I've got to find the slope. So M equals 4 minus 2 over 5 minus 0, which is going to give me 2/5. CD, M equals 3 minus 8 over 3 minus 1, which gives me negative 5 over 2. Oh, and if I multiply these, 2/5 times negative 5/2, that's going to equal negative 10 over 10, which is negative 1. So therefore, they're negative reciprocals. So we write perpendicular, if we can spell it correctly. And if you want to abbreviate it with perp, not really the best word, but we can do that. Or you can use the symbol. And for parallel, I'll accept the dashed lines for parallel for the symbol as well. Okay, next one, last one for this section. We have AB, so we're doing M equals 6 minus 8 over 2 minus negative 1. That's a double negative, so we get negative 2 over 3. CD, M equals 3 minus 2 over 3 minus negative 1, double negative, so we end up with 1 over 4. These are not the same, and they're not negative reciprocals, so this is neither. There we go. All right, 2 more examples. We can do this. Flipping it on to the next page. Let's look at 13 and 15. For these, we're giving equations. Excuse me. So we need to determine from there what the slopes are. Well, with number 13, it's not given to me. I have to rearrange to slope-intercept form. So right here, I have to solve for y first, because you want to get it into the mx plus b form. So I'm going to subtract 5x, subtract 5x. I have negative y equals negative 5x plus 4. This is where it can trip you up. People will forget that this is a negative right here. I can't leave it as a negative. I have to divide by -1 to everything because this will give me a different slope. It's very important that you pay attention to that. So we have y equals 5x minus 4. Now I can look at and start pulling out my slopes. So I have one slope is 5 and another slope is -1/5. So let's see, these are looking like negative reciprocals. So let me make sure. I multiply them and it equals -1. So therefore these are perpendicular lines. Okay, 14. You're doing the same thing. I think y'all are good. You just have to solve you have to solve both equations for y and then compare. If you've got questions, make sure that you ask. Have a great day. Bye.